So it had been a while since I'd looked at something new, so I got a copy of Symbaroum yesterday, and I got some first impressions to talk about. Obviously, I haven't had near enough time to absorb the whole thing. Can't really say much about its rule set yet because I haven't looked too much at that yet. I was mostly kind of giving and trying to get the overall gist of the setting and its, you know, kind of design ethic and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things I like about it. I find it interesting that in many ways the mythology it seems to be kind of based around, you can kind of say, is closer to the root of the thing that Tolkien was trying to reference, that D&D is then derived from. So it's taking several of your core fantasy creatures and then returning them back to them being horror story elements and not the sorts of things you find in whimsical adventures for children. Their take on playable orcs, their take on playable goblins, the fact that they have elves as player characters in the form of changelings, actual real fucking changelings, where it was, an elf left in place of a human babe and then raised as a human child until they grew up and, became obvious what they were. That's all great. I like that the setting is nice and compact. I like that its history seems to be fairly compact, too. Not sure how I feel about the stuff it hints at, that there's ongoing, narrative thrust across several, adventures, supplements, and all that kind of stuff. I like the compact setting. That I don't like games that necessarily make you feel like you're obligated to have to see what the overall meta narrative is going to be. I feel like that kind of stuff should be left to the people trying to run the thing. You should just kind of present them with a neutral start point. Kind of it's my strongest critique of Rifts by Palladium is if I wish all the books had all just been written from the perspective of the year 101 post-apocalypse, and then that way you're not kind of forced to go back and counter adjust older books to match the events of the current books, because the current books are now years past the point in the timeline that the original supplements are printed and talk about, that kind of stuff. You can make everything evenly match and then just leave it up to the individual, player groups and dungeon masters to determine how it all unfolds. And so potentially that might be a flaw in Symbaroum. But, as with all role-playing games, you can ignore the shit out of that. I'm curious, obviously, to see how their rule system holds up. I know they're a Scandinavian company. I can't remember if they were from Finland or from Sweden. But in either case, that, is obviously why they're drawing closer to the mythology that, people like Tolkien were pulling from when he wrote all of his stuff. And, D&D, while being, largely based on Conan-style swords and sorcery pulp fiction stories, they're all given a J.R.R. Tolkien skin in terms of what kind of races characters are playing, and even some of the classes are, pulled from Tolkien-esque mythology and thus derived from the Scandinavian mythology that this book seems to cleave much closer to. So, I'm definitely curious to read a bit more about it. So we'll see. Anyway, I guess there really isn't a whole lot to say, as so far. This is just a first impression, and the first impression is mostly positive, with a few hedges. So I guess we'll see if I bother having anything more to say about it down the line. I guess it'll say a lot in the end about my final opinion on the thing. So until then, stay waspinated.